It's the auspicious festival of Shivratri. And Sister Jayanti, could you explain to us what Shivratri actually is?
When we say Shivratri, then the word Maha signifies greatness, great. And so out of all the festivals within the calendar, I would actually say that Shivratri, Shivratri, is the greatest, because this is the commemoration of God's incarnation into the world when it's the time of darkness. They describe the Ratri, the time of darkness, when God descends to actually bring about the day. It's been said that the darkest hour is before the dawn. And if we look around the world now, we can see that it's that time of great darkness, very much needing the incarnation of God to be able to share light with the world and bring about the dawn, the new day.
Sister Jayanti, you've explained the significance behind this festival, but there are many myths and legends associated with this festival. And so what are the messages that these myths are actually giving?
When it's the time of Kali Yuga, the darkest hour, it's at that time that they say that God Shiva incarnates on the earth to bring about the day. And in fact, when they celebrate this, they always have, they choose the time when it's the dark night, a night without the moon, when the moon has reached its point of zero, and it's that darkest period. And it's at that time that the devotees would spend the whole night awake in God's remembrance, chanting, and then the next morning, of course, would be the day, the festival of the birth of Shiva. And through the night there would be tapasya, there would be penance, and they would also be having various offerings that they would be bringing. In particular, they would be offering milk. When they have the image of the Shivaling, they always offer milk to that image. They would offer various leaves, and in particular they would offer leaves that come from the ak plant, and that's not particularly pleasant, and so it's a surprise that that should be the offering to God. But it commemorates the fact that when human souls come to God, then when they come, then they're not very fragrant. They're a little bit thorny, they're a little bit filled with sorrow and much pain, but also filled with the vices. And so when we offer ourselves to God, we're in that condition. And then it's God's love that's able to transform us. And so the devotees aren't usually aware of this, but this is the story that always is linked with Shivratri, the offering of the ak flowers and the offering of the milk, etc.
One of the more spectacular myths is an event that is called the cosmic dance of Shiva. And so what does the myth say about the life, creation, the goals of life, and man's relationship with God?
In fact, what they have done on the path of devotion is to say that God is the creator, the sustainer, and the destroyer, which is beautiful. And they have confused a little bit the whole subject of Shiva and Shankar together. And Shiva is the cosmic supreme being, the eternal being who is incorporeal, the being of light, who's then remembered in the form of the oval image, the Shivalingam. But Shankar is the image of tapasya, through whom evil is destroyed in the world. And they say that Shiva is the creator of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar. So Brahma, the one through whom knowledge is imparted, so that new creation brings about new life, the new day. It gives new birth to souls through the awakening of spirituality and through spiritual consciousness. Then through Vishnu, the sustainer, Vishnu is the image of male and female together. 4 arms, it must be symbolic, it can't be a physical reality. But it's the image of Lakshmi and Narayan representing male and female together. And these 4 arms work together with one head, one direction. And so the unity of thought within the harmonious family life, when it's based on purity, is that which sustains the world. And then Shankar, the image that's able to destroy all evil. Shankar is a form that's shown of the masculine image with the snakes around his neck, seated on a lion's skin. These are some of the images associated with that. And sometimes when they show the image of Shankar, they actually have a Shivaling in front of Shankar. And it's indicating that Shankar is in meditation, in contemplation of a being who is higher than himself. And so the incorporeal God, the father and mother of the whole of humanity, and then Shankar, through whom evil is destroyed in the world. They say that when the third eye of Shankar opened, everything was destroyed, but it actually represents the destruction of evil. And the conquest of evil is also symbolized by the snakes around his neck. Normally you would be afraid of snakes, and in this case, what's happened? He has conquered them. And seated on a lion's skin, again, the lion, the king of the jungle, representing matter, the animal world. And so the power of tapasya, intense meditation, the power of conquest of evil, all represented in this form. And through that also the power over the elements, the power over nature, the world around us. And so, although Shiva and Shankar have been put together, yet in fact Shiva is the supreme and Shankar has a very specific role to play. And think about how when we talk about Shivratri, we never say Shankaratri, we always say Shivratri. And so obviously there is a difference. Or when we're talking about the Shiv Shaktis, again, the ones who are able to take God's power and have that Shakti in their life. So the Shakti, again, it's always associated with Shiva, not with Shankar. And when we speak about the Shivalingam, the oval image, again, it's representing God, but it's Shivalingam, not Shankarlingam. So there's enough differences for us to see that, in fact, although we've put them together, they are actually two quite distinct entities, two distinct personalities. And so I think that's been part of the myth and legend. Of course, Shiva and Shankar being confused together has given rise to many other confusions about that. But if we take it very simply, Shiva, the creator, through Brahma, the creation of a new world, through knowledge, through wisdom, through truth, through Vishnu, the sustenance of the new world, through the power of goodness, the power of purity, and through Shankar, the destruction of evil, the destruction of negativity in the world.
You've spoken about Shiva and Shankar, but just focusing on the image of Shiva. And so the image of Shiva, or God, in the form of Nataraja is filled with many metaphysical allusions. And so could you comment on some of these?
It's interesting because we were talking about Shiva and Shankar together, and I mentioned how with the opening of the third eye, evil is destroyed in the world. Apart from just the abstract form of evil being destroyed in the world, within the tradition in India, we would accept that time is cyclical and not linear. And so when we think about cyclical time, we're thinking about how from Satyug to Treta to Dwapar to Kali Yuga, which means from the Golden Age to the Silver Age to the Copper Age to the Iron Age, and from the Iron Age we move into the Golden Age again. And so time is eternal and time moves in this cyclical pattern. However, there's a very interesting period between the end of the Iron Age and the beginning of the Golden Age, and that's described as the Diamond Age, and that's the period of confluence. And in fact, the period of time that the figure of Nataraja refers to applies to that period of the confluence. Because what happens during the confluence period is that when God incarnates on earth at the time of darkness to actually destroy evil, to finish darkness and bring about the day, there are three things through which evil is destroyed, through which Kali Yuga ends and then Satyug, the Golden Age, is able to begin. And those three things are natural calamities and civil war and war on a huge scale across the world. And you can see how all the things that are happening in the world today at the present time indicate that we are very much in that phase. And Nataraja symbolizes the upheaval of all the elements all together. When Kali Yuga comes to an end, yes, human energies have been reaching their point of aggression and degradation and the extreme limits of corruption. And so, yes, we have civil war and all other types of war also. But the influence of the impure soul, Tamopradhan soul, on impure matter, Tamopradhan matter, has been of such exploitation and aggression that the whole system of nature has been thrown out of balance. And so now, at the point when Kali Yuga comes to its end, the Iron Age comes to its end, all the nature, all the elements of nature come into a state of total upheaval. And the dance of Nataraja symbolizes the state of upheaval. But you see, it's like when you put clothes in a washing machine, what happens is that everything swirls around. But within the spinning of the clothes, within the swirling of the clothes with the water and the detergent and everything else, what finally happens is that you actually get clean clothes, hopefully. And the same thing is happening as all the elements spin around and the whole of nature gets into a state of upheaval, because the system of nature has been put into a state of disruption and chaos totally through human influence and intervention and aggression, but also through God's love, God's peace, God's purity. Although things move into upheaval, things then begin to calm down, and what comes out of that entire state is a new world. A world that has been cleansed, a world that has been purified, so that then the golden age, Satyug, can begin once more. And so the whole dance, the cosmic dance of Shiva, symbolized by Nataraja, is expressing this idea that from the end of the Iron Age through into the Golden Age, that period of the Diamond Age of confluence is one of great turbulence, great chaos and upheaval. And everything spins around, but beyond that then everything settled down in its state of perfect purity once again. Nature returns to a state of order, the human soul has been cleansed and purified, that returns to its state of order and purity, and a world that is new, a world that has been rejuvenated, a world that is pure is ready to begin again.
The spiritual significance behind Shivratri is quite significant, and yet it's celebrated annually once a year. Could you give some guidance as to how an individual can take this festival in such a way that it can alter their life or the meaning of their life on a permanent basis?
In fact, I believe that Mahashivratri isn't a festival just for one day. And definitely its significance is far beyond one day, as you've said. I believe that we're now at this period of confluence, the end of the old, the beginning of the new, the end of one cycle and the starting point of the new cycle. And so in our human life today, Shivratri actually has a very tremendous significance and a very great impact if we were to understand it, and definitely not just for a day, but for the whole period of our lifetime. Because Shivratri is reminding us that now, at this time of darkness, it is time to have the awakening. The devotees would spend the night awake and they would be fasting. And the word fast has a very interesting meaning in Hindi, upvas. It means to come closer. Upvas, to reside closer. And of course, people think that if there's some sort of physical deprivation of food, that's going to make you remember God more. And maybe that's true, or maybe at that time you remember your sandwiches more. I'm not sure what it is. But what it's actually referring to